Well, it is a bit of a theme that's come up on the podcast before in terms of that idea of kind of facing things in your own skin or in your own shoes. And that's where sort of facing phobias today, I think, works quite well as an episode title. But I suppose one thing that kind of strikes me about what you've said there is that, for example, having a fear of flying on a plane, it's not as if you necessarily need to go on a plane and actually go through that situation to experience it. You can almost have, as you say, that kind of graded exposure where you could, I don't know, if you go to a sort of flight simulator, that would be, for example, one thing where you're not necessarily exposed to the same level of threat. So, like for me, it's even just recognizing that there are ways of almost dipping the toe in before jumping in is something that I think would be super beneficial.
Now, it's interesting you mention that because that will lead on to other technologies like, say, virtual reality. That actually is used these days for a fear of flying. And the thing is, any situation which evokes those reactions we talked about, anything that brings up the somatic reaction, the catastrophic thoughts, the feeling of, oh, I want to get away from this situation, that actually can even be the person closing their eyes and imagining getting on a plane as well. So these other situations like virtual reality, someone actually having the experience of seeing a plane in front of them and walking up the steps and getting on it, like seeing that happen, at least in a simulation, can still evoke the feelings, just as if we close our eyes and in a detailed way, maybe in a therapy session that helps do this or in a hypnosis session, if people actually go through the experience in imagery, it can evoke those very fight and flight reactions we talked about earlier. And that's the thing for the person to practice facing. It's not the situation itself. It's the kind of phobic reactions we might have in that situation. And as the person gets more confident of managing those phobic kind of reactions, then they can separate out how they're experiencing things within their body and mind from the situation itself. And when people can say unhook that, meaning, hey, here I am in the situation, there's a spider, it might be a daddy long legs or whatever, but it's on my hand, and I'm not freaking out here where I used to, kind of thing. The person can be starting to separate the idea of spiders being dangerous and separate out their internal reactions from the objective situation. So as people get more confident of managing their own reactions, regardless of the situation they're in or that they imagine themselves of being in, that can help reduce the phobia.